right, Terry, you ready to make this happen? The show today here?
Yeah, man. Welcome. I can't believe this is back-to-back Friday afternoons that we're going to attempt a special edition.
Yeah, well, it worked out decently
fairly
last
well.
time. The show turned out good, but we had so many interruptions.
We did. We're hoping not to have any stops and starts today. I mean, we may, but who knows?
So guys, this is a special edition, and that means that this is the laid-back version of the News Freaks show. We don't do the big story, but we just kind of meander a little bit about topics and things, and you got a big topic today.
Well, yeah, I figured we do something nice for all the moms. We celebrate all the mothers of the world, all the guiding female figures in our lives, because Ed, today is Friday, May the 10th. Sunday, May the 12th is Mother's Day.
Ah, yes, Mother's Day.
Yeah. Of course. To honor the shining beacons in our lives, they gave us life. They're the reason we're here.
The made-up
holiday. They're the reason we're here.
So instead of honoring them throughout our life, taking care of them, we'll give them like one day a year where we give them a call or feed them dinner or whatever, and then that's it. For all the years they spent carrying us.
I know. They have to wait 364 days, and then on that last day, they finally get the due that they deserve.
But thank goodness it's only once a year, because it is kind of taxing.
Man, God, you panic. I know I have to make a phone call Sunday. I don't like making phone calls to anyone, friends or family.
And for me, I have to spend the entire day actively avoiding phone calls from anyone who knows my mother, and especially my mother herself.
So Edman, we this will be our third special edition, I believe.
Our third
special
one.
edition.
We're
3.
rolling them out.
Yeah, man, I feel great today. I think we're gonna have a great time on this show.
They are dropping like coins in a fountain.
I mean, if we want to call it that, I say we'll go with that. Nice visual there. So, anyways, what are you going to get your mom? You're just going to give her a call and have it be
worth
that?
About as much as those pennies, do they? No, these things are great. Especially, I listen to them back sometimes. They're tremendously entertaining. Oftentimes you wonder, does the artist admire his own work the way that others do? And I do. I listen to the show. I'm like, man, we're really good.
That is great. I'm happy to hear that. I can't listen to it because then I tend to want to redo every single show, and I would just need to quit all of my part-time jobs.
I do that is one thing about listening to the show, is that I'm like, God,
missed opportunities.
I could have made that joke and that was begging for a line, and I missed it, and I do kind of get upset about
nobody is going to be as hard on yourself as you are, Ed, man.
That's what they say.
You know that. So like I was saying, are you going to get your mom something, or she just gets the call on the card and that's that?
I like to think that I treat my mother well throughout the year. And
I've seen you interact with your mom. You're a nice boy to that lady.
I do not have to really do anything special for Mother. I think Mother's Day is sort of a break for me.
Okay. And when we really think about it, without us, they wouldn't be moms.
That's right.
So, I mean, it goes both ways, doesn't it? Where's my gift? Anyways, folks, we just thought we'd talk about a few things that, as I was thinking of Mother's Day, things that popped into my head that we thought the listeners might find interesting or noteworthy. Again, if you have any comments on the show, we appreciate any feedback we get. We love reading the messages. We love hearing from all of the loyal throngs of fans that we have.
And
in
they are
News
loyal.
Freaks. Yeah, they really are. We if we don't put out an episode for a day or 5 days,
they leave
2
immediately.
Weeks, they're gone.
So they're not loyal.
No, they are.
But they do like
They are
the show.
asking me, Terry, when's the next edition coming out? I've got my notifications set on Spotify or wherever their podcast provider is, and they're waiting patiently for us to come on. So we're gonna deliver this weekend, so you'll have something fresh to listen to. But yeah, anyways, if you want to give us some feedback on that, 904-300-2475. That is our text line. You can also write us some mail at thenewsfreaks.com, and catch us on our social media outlets, The News Freaks on Facebook and at News Freaks Pod on Twitter. So anyways, Ed, Modern Mother's Day, we'll just talk about its roots. Where did this thing start? How do we even get into this mess?
I recall there was a lady who was like lonely, and her only friend was her mom, and she was so attached to her mother that she created Mother's Day. And what's tragic is that lady herself never had children.
Boy, talk about stealing the punchline from my story. I guess I can throw these four sheets away. No, we're gonna. I don't know who the lady is. You're pretty darn close on that, Ed. Man, we're gonna talk a little bit about her. It did begin right here in the United States. It's observed now in dozens of countries around the world right around this time. Some countries do it in March.
So this is an American.
It was originally set here. Her name was Anna Jarvis, the lady you were talking about. She had such a tight, close relationship and love for her mom that a few years after her mother passed away, which was in 1905, a few years later, May 10th, 1908. So we are actually on the anniversary of that. It looks like we are on the 111th year anniversary of when this started here.
Well, it happens once a year, so it'd always be the anniversary.
No, it won't always be the exact anniversary, though. It's not always we're doing this show on May 10th. May 10th was when she had this first observance of Mother's Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying this is so this really is
exactly.
Yeah.
I get that. So her mom had died, like I said, 3 years prior. So on May 10th, 1908, Anna Jarvis had a memorial ceremony to honor her late mother and all mothers. She held it at the Andrews Methodist Episcopal Church in Grafton, West Virginia, which was her childhood hometown.
Grafton, known for skin grafting.
But I don't think that's where that
surgery
came from, Ed. I'm going to have to look that up. I think that's wrong. Anyways, Jarvis herself did not attend this service, interestingly enough. She did send a telegram, though, describing the significance of the day, as well as 500 white carnations to everybody who attended
was
the
she
service.
A recluse? How could you not
No, she was
attend the
not.
service?
She actually was living and working and doing quite well for herself in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
She had moved to Philadelphia, and she had several jobs. She had a good, I guess, a decent job at a bank, and she also was part owner or had part stake in, God, I can't remember, but it was a pretty significant company at the time as well. So she was doing okay. She was giving a speech there to honor the day to a captive audience at Philadelphia's Wanamaker Store Auditorium. And Wanamaker's, I guess, was one of the first ever department stores. We didn't even do that on our department store quiz a few weeks ago. But now it's a national historical landmark here in the United States.
I like the name, Wanamaker.
Wanamaker's, yeah, it was pretty nice. So anyway, she chose the white carnation to honor her mother, citing the truth, purity, and charity of motherly love.
Carnations used to have significance a long time ago, didn't they?
Its fragrance, her memories, and her prayers. Now, I think years later, the floral industry said, you know what, we can kind of redistribute this. We can have white carnations be for people who have late mothers, and red carnations to be for mothers that are still alive, so they could sell more flowers. But I guess
genius.
I guess carnations is the preferred flower of Mother's Day, though, from what I understand. So as the years went by, Jarvis struggled to convey her original message because of what we just talked about. The day was being increasingly commercialized by floral, candy, and greeting card industries. I remember a few episodes ago we did a thing on greeting cards as well.
Yeah, we
did a little segment on that. This left Jarvis kind of dismayed and a little bit outraged, actually. In one writing, she wrote, quote, "A printed card means nothing except that you are too lazy to write to the woman who has done more for you than anyone in the world. And candy, you take a box to mother and then eat most of it yourself. A pretty sentiment." Yeah.
So, and she regretted even creating the holiday, which makes two of us.
Ed, man, you're kind of, again, on the right track with Miss Jarvis here. As the years continued to go by, she became more and more disillusioned with the holiday as companies raked in the profits, and she unfortunately did not. She started to take on some illnesses and whatnot, and mentally, I think she was starting to go a little off the rails as well.
Yeah.
So she actually had to move in with her sister, Lily, at some point. And in 1943, get this, she actually began organizing a petition to rescind Mother's Day altogether. She said, what have I done? I've made a huge error here.
Open Pandora's box.
So these efforts were halted because she was shortly thereafter placed in the Marshall Square Sanitarium in Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's no good.
And get this as well. The stay was paid for by people connected to both the floral and greeting card industries.
I was going to say, what if it was the big business that put her away? It kind of sounds sounds like they did.
They actually paid for her entire stay, but I mean, they probably were responsible for her entire stay as well, which was kind of crazy. But Jarvis ended up.
I smell a TV movie.
Jarvis ended up dying there several years later, November 24th, 1948, at the age of 84. And like you mentioned at the start of the segment, Ed, she was never married and never had any kids in a twist of fate, I'd say, right? I mean, somebody who loved her mother so much, you would have thought that she would have not been a spinster and latched on to someone and had kids of her own.
Perhaps the pain of losing her mother was so great she did not want to inflict that pain on another.
Perhaps.
Movie of the week.
Well, so you think this Anna Jarvis story could be good? Meredith Baxter Burney could star in it?
Starring Meredith Baxter.
I would have said Lori Loughlin, but she's not available for any new roles.
Her sister Judith Light.
the holy triumvirate of the Lifetime movie.
Right. Oh, sorry. I didn't even know. I wasn't ready, dude. This is a special edition. I didn't even know we were doing all that stuff. I hit buttons willy-nilly.
I hit Edman with the cue for the bumper. He got his hand caught in his kimono and couldn't reach the soundboard.
I was writing a card to my mother.
Well, that's sweet anyways. Edman, you mentioned something when I told you about our idea to do kind of a special edition today about Mother's Day. You told me about something that I found interesting. You said that back in the MySpace days, you used to write a little bit of a little blog or something.
Yeah, I wrote about 4 to 10 blogs. I actually don't remember how many I wrote. And I went looking for them before the show, and I couldn't find them. But that's how I knew that stuff about Jarvis there, because I had back then I had actually looked it up in order to write the blog.
Wow, that's interesting.
But this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, this must have been 15 years ago.
You really put in some good time and research on that, though, because I was shocked that you knew so much about it.
Once a news freak, always a news freak.
News freaks never die. They just go out to pasture. I don't know what our quote's going to be.
They just switched papers.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Exactly. So anyways, Ed, I was wondering, as we talk about mothers and on our own mothers, the ladies who were female guiding figures in our lives. Now, I come from a family, my parents got divorced when I was very young. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. My parents got divorced. Unfortunately, I have not spoken to my birth mother in probably more than 20, 25 years at this point, since I was, in my early, late teens, early 20s.
But she's still around.
She's still around. I do have it in my mind that I am going to try to contact her at some point soon.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of waiting. Now I know my brother, he has no interest in contacting her at all.
Really?
My father got remarried shortly after, within a year or two after, to my stepmom, and they are still together now. They've been married over 35 years. She basically raised us.
Yeah.
So we consider her our mom for all intents and purposes, because she was the one that did the heavy lifting and the rearing and all that. And it's funny, my dad was, he was 28, 29 years old, divorced with 2 kids, and she was a 19-year-old lady when they met, and she took on that responsibility. So, of course, that was very awe-inspiring that she would do that.
Now, I don't know if you want to say personal things for all of our listener to hear, but what caused the disconnect between you and your birth mom?
It's really funny. I mean, it's one of those things that happened. We were growing up, and my dad actually got custody of us through the courts. My mom was kind of a free spirit. I think that's where I get some of my wanderlust from. I've had a tendency to kind of roam and ramble about in life a little bit. Yeah. So anyways, my dad got custody, and my mom for a short time would take us every couple weeks, for an overnight here or there. She lived in the same hometown. We would get cards and birthdays, but then as the years went by, the calls sort of stopped. She kind of moved to different places, and we just kind of lost connection. My grandmother, unfortunately, passed away probably when I was around... Boy, I want to say I was in my young 20s, so probably about 20 years ago, and we went to her funeral. She was a big part of our growing up, and we saw our mom there, and my brother got there first. My brother's name's Kyle, and my mom said, "Hi, Terry," to him when she first saw him. Yeah. So it was kind of, a little bit of an awkward situation. But anyways, she just kind of moved around. We just kind of lost touch. We are still friends with her her brother's wife, so it would be her sister-in-law.
Now, do you have any feelings of not embarrassment, of resentment, or of what do they call it? That's the word, abandonment.
You know what,
Ed,
so
you have any?
I gotta be
abandonment
totally
issues?
honest. I really don't. I don't. I know. I get it. I think being an adult now, I can understand they were very young kids when they had us. It was very challenging trying to raise two young kids, and they were both in their young 20s when they had us. My dad was, working third shift. I'm sure there was a lot of temper and I get it. I get what goes on when you become an adult and the pressures that come with having kids at such a young age. So I really did not feel those feelings of, oh, how could you do this to us? Or how, as I got older, I don't even know if I really had too many of those feelings growing up either. I really kind of was a very understanding and forgiving guy. I like to think of myself that way still, but I honestly would like to sometime in the near future try to reach out and try to make contact with her.
Now I never knew this about Terry here. So for you listeners out there, you're hearing this for the first time. Terry and I, we don't really talk much outside of the show.
We don't.
So it's nice to get to know you as a person.
We have a little bit of a working relationship, a little bit of a studio relationship, and News Freaks relationship. Yeah, it is good.
The medium of podcasting.
We always pick up a little bit of extra dirt on each other.
That's right, dirt.
So, anyways, what I was going to ask before that, did you and your mom growing up, either or both, if you want, I wanted to know if there was something that just the two of you enjoyed doing together, is just you and her, is kind of your thing. And secondly, did she have a dish that was like she was famous for, that she was like it really could kill in the kitchen?
Yeah, well, she fucking burned everything with paprika, so there's that. But like you, I have a kind of almost a similar story. So when I was born, my parents were dirt poor. They didn't have any money.
Right.
So I was sent to live with my grandparents. My mother was a young mother. Now, I don't know if I should say this because if my parents ever listen to the show, they'll be mortified by this, but I don't care. I'm not embarrassed.
Right.
But my mother, I think she was like probably 15 maybe when she married my dad. My dad was in his early 20s.
Okay.
I think she was like 14,
well, you know what?
15
I mean, it was a
like,
different era. It was a different era, yeah.
But even then they had to hide it. And it's so funny because anytime I ask my mother how old she is, you see her trying to calculate. So after all this time, you'd figure she would just settle on a number, right? But she always has to go, what year? I was, Harold, when was I?
Well, Edman, they must be married a long time now, though.
My parents did not they were married the whole time, but they should have gotten divorced. When I was a kid, so I got sent back to live with them when I was about 7, 8. And not a single day, I went from my grandparents who were very tranquil most of the time. If my grandparents ever got into a fight, what happened is my grandfather would tell my grandmother to shut up, and then she'd shut up, or he would go for a walk if she wouldn't stop talking.
Which you know what? More people should
drive the car.
More people should take that advice. You gotta just
great
remove yourself from the situation.
He'd come back. He wasn't mad
and he
anymore.
was calm.
She wasn't mad anymore.
The situation diffuses
they
itself.
They didn't even. I hardly ever saw them argue.
Yep, that's great.
So, but my parents, not a day would go by without them fighting. And in fact, I remember one day went by. They didn't fight. At the end of the day, stupid me, I say, "Hey, a whole day went by without you fighting," and that started a fight. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Had to get that jab in there. How about?
It felt good though. But anyway, so I grew up and then I kept ping-ponging back and forth between my parents and my grandparents.
Gotcha.
So I also grew up not
kind of in a not
having that same attachment.
Different home,
and
different home situations.
I'm closer to them now than I was back then.
And I'll tell you what, it seems like every time I see your parents that they're always having a great time together. Maybe as you age, you mellow with time. Maybe
they still fight every time
I
see them. But
interesting.
I've can't live without each other.
Yeah, and that's it. That's it.
I can't wait until I'm made miserable by someone.
Oh man, it's gonna be so great. I can't wait to take walks and drive around the block a few times.
But yeah, my mother was a terrible cook.
Okay.
And, someday maybe I'll tell the entire story, but I will tell you that she couldn't cook worth a damn. In fact, it was so bad, she almost burned the house down so many times. My father bought a timer to shut the thing off automatically because she would never remember to turn the stove off. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. I believe, know what happens with my mom, and I'll call her name's Lori, and we actually still call her Lori. We don't refer to her as mom.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And my parents would get so mad.
But when I refer to her to friends and other people, I say my mom.
Yeah, I do too, because they think it's weird, and then they start asking questions.
But I mean, I don't, and it just to tell the whole story. We just grew up calling her Lori, and she always left that to us. If you want to call me mom, call me mom. If you want to call me Lori, whichever way. But
funny, when I was a kid, my mother would yell at me and say, "You call me mommy," and I'd be like, "No," because I grew up with my grandparents. I wasn't used to calling them.
Right.
I heard them called what my grandparents would call them.
Well, now I do have to tell you, I also have I mentioned my brother Kyle. I have another brother, Rich, who's several years younger than us, and we adopted him when he was young. He was 3 or 4 years old. We adopted him as our brother. My parents did, and he calls our mom Lori mom because he was at a very young age. That was the mother that he knew, and she is to us the mother that we knew as well. We love her very much. She did a lot for us, and that's who we really do consider our mom, our true mom.
I'm indifferent towards my parents.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, that's you know what? I'm sure there's some News Freaks listeners out there that can relate.
But I mean, I say that as a joke. Though,
I know.
Right? I mean, I will take care of them in their old age and all that.
Of course,
stuff,
you will.
Everything's fine.
Well, one thing your parents do that, and I asked about the dish. She couldn't cook, but one thing your parents do still, which I find hilarious.
You said do.
I did. That was so weird. Anyways, they will bring you scraps and a little potpourri of food items every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, if they could ever bring me a full meal, that would be great. But they go out. So my
half-eaten remnants,
my parents go out and eat, and then they come back and they bring me their shitty leftovers. And they think they're doing something for me.
It's like you can see where they tore the loaf of bread apart. You can see the tear marks on it. I mean, and then they'll bring that, and then they'll bring like a little bit of, I don't know, like a half-eaten salmon or something. I've seen a few times. But that's great. That's sweet. They're thinking of you. Not enough to order you a full meal from the menu.
They're thinking about me, but they don't really care. So it's weird.
It's either the garbage or you.
Yeah, it's either the garbage.
It's getting shoveled in the garbage or you.
They think of me when they're ready to get rid of their stuff.
That's great.
But not when they're ordering nice, new, shiny food.
Well,
I wish I could censor this episode here. I mean, if only there were, on websites you can create permissions. So if somebody doesn't have the right permissions, they don't see certain parts of the website.
Right.
I wish there were permissions on this podcast. So if they ever listen to the thing, they wouldn't hear all this stuff. But guys, listen, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I love your fucking shitty leftovers.
Yeah, he still wants them. I mean, I know he still eats them, so it doesn't matter.
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
No matter what he says,
I just cut off the bit part from the burrito, and that's
he's
it.
consuming
I'm good
it
to go.
regardless. So my mom, she, I believe, got to be a better cook as she got older, because I remember as she was a young lady, of course she was only 19, 20, young 20s, she really wasn't that great a cook, but as she got older the meals started getting better and better, so she started to find her groove a little bit, and now she cooks a Sunday meal every week for my cousins, my grandfather, my dad. A bunch of them get together for Sunday dinner up there in Massachusetts every week. So that's pretty nice. And one thing that we did together, and I always remember this, and I think this gave me the love of a good story. She always used to read to me all the time. We'd be read in bed these big books, like Aesop's Fables and all kinds of fairy tales and all kinds of stories. And I just wrap my brain and lose myself in these fantasy lands and whatnot. Yeah. And it always made me love books and reading and stories. And here I am still enjoying stories that happen in day-to-day life.
That's so interesting, because my parents would leave me alone for hours and hours, and I'd have nothing to do, so I would read books and wrap my head around in fantasy. And
escape from that.
We
got there in different ways. We
We're
did.
freaks together, Terry.
Hey,
you
listen,
and I.
there's a fork in the road, and we took different ones and came straying around together. So, anyways, in that last story about Anna Jarvis, there we talked about the industry, right? The flowers, cards, and candies. Well, it got me thinking about the old standby for procrastinating husbands and children across the United States who duck into Walgreens or CVS at the 11th hour right before Mother's Day to pick up, you know what they're going to pick up, a box of Russell Stover's assorted chocolates.
The chocolates, right?
Or the even more popular, timeless box of chocolates known as Whitman Sampler.
Okay.
You know what the Whitman Sampler is, right?
I do.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Whitman Sampler in this segment, Ed. It was founded, the brand was, and bring up the box if you like, Ed, because you're going to know it when you see it. It looks like something your grandma might have crocheted or done by needlepoint. It has that real old-timey feel. It's got flowers. I think it's got a bird on the box somewhere, like on a branch. Yeah, there it is. You're looking at it right there, that first picture to the left there.
I saw the letters in my mind. I thought it was a blue box, though, but it's not.
Yeah, it's like a green, I think it's a green box with green script. The Whitman's is written in nice cursive kind of script there. It's got a bouquet of flowers. There is that bird on the branch I was talking about. But yeah, it was actually Whitman's brand was founded by a 19-year-old kid, Stephen F. Whitman, in 1842. This Whitman sampler that I'm sure every mother and grandmother around the country has gotten at least once in their lives. I can't imagine them not receiving this. That was founded in 1912, so about 107 years ago, they came up with this box here.
Probably to help celebrate Mother's Day. 7 years after Mother's Day was invented. You said 1905 was when it was created. Is that right?
1908 it actually was.
1908.
Yeah. So they probably could smell an opportunity
Profit.
in the market, right? So anyways, it became increasingly popular over time, but it really started to catch its footing through during World War I and World War II. It's where they really started to make some headway here. Now, the company still has a long-standing tradition of supporting U.S. servicemen and women abroad, at home and abroad. But during World War I, millions of tins were shipped to American soldiers stationed throughout the world, and I even saw an ad when I was doing my research here that stated, in peace times a luxury, in war times a fighting food.
Oh, wow.
Because Whitman Sampler
the sugar,
gave the energy to take out the enemy. So it was a more morale booster. It was seen as a morale booster for a lot of people. And actually, people who were fighting in the war that received one of these, the word of mouth was like outrageously good. They'd come home, they say, look at this thing that I got. There's a Whitman Sampler here.
The sugar gives you the energy to kill, and the chocolate has a calming effect so you don't fear death quite so much.
This is true. Well, get this, Ed. In World War II, women at the Whitman's production line would secretly slip handwritten notes of encouragement into the boxes to help alleviate soldiers' homesickness.
And it's chocolate, and they're women, so they probably put those notes in place of pieces of chocolate.
I hope not. I hope they got the full allotment of chocolate.
And a note. That would be the best.
Yeah, that's what I hope happened. Well, I'm not sure. Does Whitman's come with a guide or not? Because that's always the biggest thing. You get one of these boxes of chocolate, and you're looking at it, and you're like, oh, man, I don't want to, I'm nervous. I don't want to take a chance and pick out the wrong thing.
Yeah, and then not eat it. I'll look, but
I'm not sure.
Let me ask, if Whitman's calls it a sampler implies that they sell, that those are pieces of larger chocolate lines that they sell. Do they sell other things besides the sampler?
I'm not sure. They used to sell like fruit and other confections, but I don't know if they still do. But anyways, Ed, if it does not have a guide, fear not, news freaks. We've got you moms covered, okay? If your spouse or your children gets you one of these in the next couple days, here's your handy guide to help you pick out the correct chocolate without having to bite off a corner and ruin it for everybody else.
Perfect.
Right? I mean, that's what I usually do. Take a little nibble off the end and, oh, no. I didn't want that. I don't. Turn it around so that it's harder to spot.
I use a knife, you barbarian.
Oh, well, hey, listen. It's just teeth. So anyways, while box contents may vary, as a general rule, Edman, a square shape is going to be caramel. Okay, your square shape is going to be caramel. A rectangle is going to be nougat. And I'm 41 years old. I still don't know what nougat actually is. Do you know?
I thought nougat was...
Look up. You want to look up nougat? Because I'm very curious.
Nougat's nuts, right?
I don't think there's any nuts in nougat. I think it's like a
It's plastic with nuts in it, basically. What is nougat?
Yeah, we really want to know.
Candy made from sugar, honey, nuts, and egg white. Egg white.
Okay, so there were nuts in it in the making of it, but there's not actual nuts throughout it. So yeah, a rectangle's going to be that nougat, guys. Ovals are typically going to be fudge. The round ones are usually your soft-centered ones. These are the ones I don't really like. Marshmallow, like cherry, like kind of like that strawberry, like air filling or whatever. I don't really care for those. And then the nut clusters. I mean, we can identify those. They look misshapen. They got, the big, the big kind of weird form to them. Anyways, if you get one of those Whitman sampler, there you go. You've got a little bit of a guide there to help you navigate around. They may have updated with the times and given you a guide to what's what in there. I can't imagine they don't.
There's one there.
You
can't
see
read it, but
you see a guide that they.
One.
So they probably do these days. There was nothing worse than when you were trying to, as Anna Jarvis said, try to sneak a few of the mom's chocolates that you bought, and you didn't know what the heck you were picking out.
I mean, for somebody who hadn't experienced, Jarvis seemed really upset by it.
I do believe that it contributed to her illnesses later in life. Like she really was very distraught and disheartened at how the industries had taken over what she just wanted to be a real pure celebration of motherly love.
I feel that maybe and I don't know because I don't know Miss Jarvis or anything about her really, other than these bare facts.
Right.
But I feel that maybe she was a little bit jealous that she didn't make more money off of this Mother's Day thing. I could be wrong about that. Maybe she was just upset that big business was co-opting her idea.
So it's funny though. I mean,
if she was making a bunch of money off it, do you think she would have been so upset about it?
I don't think she tried to rescind it. I can tell you that. Like 1943. That was like 35 years after she had the first one.
If the Anna Jarvis card company and chocolate manufacturing plant had taken off, do you think that she would be so upset about it?
I just don't know why at the beginning she just didn't say, you know what, like, I see where this is going. I've got to jump on board. I am the founder. She took credit and nobody tried to steal the credit away from her.
Right.
So clearly there was no real fight about who came up with Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It was Anna Jarvis. So she should have just lent her name to stamp a little picture.
License it. Yeah, license her name.
Stamp her name on everything and she would have been rolling in it.
But maybe she didn't sell out, and now we have a lesson. If you don't sell out, you end up in an institution and you die there.
Hearing that story, I just think of Anna Jarvis, and it makes me kind of sad because she wanted to do this nice, wonderful thing, and yet she was probably so taken over by this anger and miserableness that she couldn't find a suitor. She couldn't get herself a family and have kids of her own.
And it's kind of frightening to think that the people who paid for her institutionalization were the very companies she was fighting against. That makes me think maybe they got her put away, man. But my mind works.
You know what? That, we can't lose this holiday. She's getting real
She's
close.
She's talking too much, man. We've given her too much rope.
You know what? Ed, the more you
let the leash out too far.
The more you start filling my head with this, the more I am going to write Lifetime about it. Yeah,
let's put a script together.
Lifetime. I think we can write this baby. I think this will be good. Obviously, we're going to dramatize this a little bit.
Let's make some money off it, though. Let's not Anna Jarvis it.
What I think we'll do? We'll have her have several affairs and male suitors through the years, but she'll get pissed off because they want to buy stuff for their mothers on Mother's Day, so she kicks them to the curb.
Yeah, she sees one of them like sneaking chocolates, and she's like, "Oh, this guy's not worth it."
What is that? Is that a Whitman sampler? How dare you? Yeah, man, I think we're onto something here. I think we're definitely onto something.
God damn it, man!
You really want to play?
It's fine. It's a special edition.
It is a special edition. We're just freeforming it here. Man, you really put the theme song in the wrong spot today, Ed.
Well, I can only look. My machine's messing up.
Well, listen.
That's supposed to be 2 lights, but there's 3, so I can't tell one from the other.
They really screwed.
What does this light do? Nothing. It didn't even do anything.
It didn't do anything. No.
It's broken.
Yeah. They're taking the day off today, too. They're like, wait, we don't usually work on Fridays.
They're out getting stuff for their mom.
So anyways, Ed, when you think of ultimate movies portraying the eternal bond between a son and his mother, What
Psycho.
Yeah, of course. We think of the heartwarming 1960 Alfred Hitchcock film
Heartwarming.
Psycho. Yeah, boy, that's twice today that you really jumped in there and stole my thunder.
Psycho. Well, that is the first thing I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, so anyways, I thought we'd revisit this classic American piece of cinema here in honor of Mother's Day, of course.
Yes.
Norman Bates was a good son. He loved his mother very much.
He's a little too good.
He thought, actually, one of the American Film Institute, on their list of 100 greatest movie quotes of all time, number 56 is a Norman Bates quote where he says, quote, "A boy's best friend is his mother."
Oh, man, that's so creepy, dude. When he said that, dude.
So anyways, we're also on their list. They had a list in 2003 of the top 100 film heroes and villains. So they did a list of 100 heroes and 100 villains. And on the villains list, Norman Bates was number 2.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Who do you think number 1 and
though.
3 might have been?
Like Dr. Doom or something. Who? 1 and 3. Probably. You know what? There was a big. Tell me when the list was made.
It was 2003. 2003.
So I would say maybe Hannibal Lecter.
He was number 1. Good guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see, 2003. They put that Saw guy in there.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even check. I only checked the top 3. You can check this list out. Just put in American Film Institute top 100 film heroes and villains. Number 1 had near and dear to your heart. Or number 3, rather, Darth Vader.
Oh, Darth Vader. Oh,
Yeah.
close. Darth Vader was a ripoff of Dr. Doom.
Yeah. So Hannibal
far
Lecter
off.
was 1, 2 was Norman Bates, 3 was Darth Vader. I thought just for the heck of it, I'd do the top 3 on the hero side too. Just for the heck of it. You have any guesses on that side?
Well, if they're doing Darth Vader, and this is for movies,
It was, yeah.
well, they got to have Superman up there someplace.
I think he was on the
He's
list,
the
but he
greatest
was not.
hero,
He was
right?
not on the 3.
He's not interesting. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah, you want to think. These guys. Definitely 2 and 3 were very interesting, and 1 was, he was a hero. I mean, it was a classic film for
Mad
sure.
Max or wait, when was this made? In 2003. What movies were out then that would?
I mean, none of these movies. I mean, actually, 2 of the movies are kind of franchises, so
You
they
know
kind
who
of.
gets screwed off all these hero lists is Shaggy from Scooby Doo. He faces fears sometimes. I mean,
Scoob.
zoinks.
Yeah, zoinks. Anyways, yeah. Number 3 on the list of the heroes was James Bond.
Oh God, yeah.
Number 2 was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And number 1, we talked about this last episode of the episode before. Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird was number 1 on their list of heroes.
Yeah.
Because he fought for racial justice.
But later on, he turned out to be a racist himself.
Did he?
In the sequel, yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I didn't see the sequel.
Did you
write about that in the MySpace blog?
No, I didn't. A book for modern times, but that pretty much figures.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
dude who wasn't a racist now suddenly is a racist.
Yeah? Interesting. I'll have to check that out because now you've piqued my interest on that one. Well, anyway, Norman was a character created by novelist Robert Bloch for his 1959 novel, which was also titled Psycho. Bloch wrote hundreds of short stories and over 30 novels. He actually had a great career as a writer. I think he died in the 90s, sometime around then. But he won a World Fantasy Award, a Bram Stoker Award, which is given by the Horror Writers Association for superior achievement in dark fantasy and horror writing.
We'll have to do a trivia thing on that one day. Was a Bram Stoker Award actually created by Bram?
I'm going to have to look that up as well. He also won a Hugo Award.
My friend Bram.
Bram. I'm going to name a kid Bram. And also a Hugo Award he won, which is given for best science fiction or fantasy works.
Now, was that Hugo? Victor Hugo made that award?
Again, we'll have to look that up. Robert Bloch, he actually... it was widely assumed that he had modeled Norman Bates after the infamous Wisconsin murderer Ed Gein. But he did not. He later revealed in interviews that he was pretty much finished writing this novel when he even learned of this famous killer.
Okay, yeah, because I heard that also.
Yeah, and he was stunned by, and this is Robert Bloch's quote here, how closely the imaginary character I'd created resembled the real Ed Gein in both overt act and apparent motivation.
Very interesting.
Isn't it?
You have uncovered a nugget that I have not heard anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've looked at this stuff.
Yeah,
before.
interesting, right? So in 1960, this also interested me. Robert Bloch wrote this book in 1959, and 1 year later, they were making a movie on it. They don't.
Wow.
The turnaround, it does not
That's
happen
amazing.
like that
Yeah.
today, right?
No.
Usually it takes years and years for a book or novel to go to movie form.
Right.
So I thought that was fascinating. 1960, Anthony Perkins would be cast as Norman Bates, a career-defining role for him, right? The character suffered severe emotional abuse as a child at the hands of his mother, Norma. So she named him Norman, and she was Norma. She preached to him that sexual intercourse was sinful, and all women except herself were whores.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sounds pretty healthy
That's a
for a mom-son relationship. The novel actually,
all women except myself
are whores, raging. I'm not a whore, but every other one.
Everyone else, though.
Whore. So the novel also hints that the relationship may have been incestuous, but I mean, were there overtones of that in the movie? It's been so long since I've seen it. I was probably a teenager when I saw it.
I think there might have been, the first two movies I thought were really good. The second one was kind of convoluted, but it was still good.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I liked it. I think it was kind of panned, that third movie. I thought it was good too. And then the fourth one, I was like, if the third one was bad and the fourth one got even worse reviews, I was like, I'm not even going to look at that.
You're not doing it, yeah.
Because in the fourth one, they show, it's like a prequel. Like they show his mother.
Really?
I was like, there's no way they're going to pull this off because the lady they have playing with his mother is like this really good looking lady.
Interesting.
And I was like, they always showed her as like a old one, like an Aunt May.
Right.
Well, Aunt May now is good looking too. Right? But I was like, there's no way they're going to pull this off. That actress, whoever that was, did pull it off. I was like, she did a great job.
I'll have to look more into that. We're going to talk about a prequel to Psycho a little bit later on in this segment.
I actually liked all the Psycho movies.
Yeah. Well, after the death, for those of you not familiar, I got to be honest, okay? I know we talked about in our last episode, Movie Madness, about how spoilers are happening. Well, I'm just going to be right up front, guys. It is almost 60 years later. I'm going to give you spoilers on Psycho now.
You've had time.
So if you haven't seen it yet, cover your ears or don't listen to this segment, okay?
Is this on the movie and the book, or
this is pretty much the novel and the movie pretty much are in line for most. The little details vary here and there, but for the most part,
like Norman Bates being alive.
But right. So anyways, after the death of Norman's father, he and his mom live alone together as if there were no one else in the world until mom meets a man and plans to marry. Well, this will not do for Norman. He's consumed by rage and he murders both of them using strychnine.
He should have just invented Mother's Day.
Yeah, right. This is true. She would have passed very short. Actually, I think, going back to Anna Jarvis, I think the mom had actually mentioned to her several times, it would be nice if you came up with something honoring mothers. I think I read that. I think I glazed over it and passed by, and I meant to go back.
So it was the mother
I
that
think she planted the
Mother's
seed in her head, and then it took her 3 years after she died to say, you know what, the guilt might have been driving her nuts. I don't know if that's true, but I think it might have been. So anyways, he killed both the mom and the boyfriend with strychnine. That causes poisoning and asphyxia in us humans. After a brief hospital stay, because Norman was smart enough to stage it to look like a murder-suicide, so he just had to have a stay because he was in severe shock. He developed what we know as multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder.
Because, of course, Norman was a good boy and he would never do something like that.
Correct. So he assumed his mom's personality to repress his awareness of her death and also his feelings of guilt for killing her.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, who has not? Who among us has not done the same at one point or another?
I mean, we'll talk about that on another special edition, live from Alcatraz. Anyways. He kept kept her corpse in the house, as we know, dressed her up, sat her up in that rocking chair. We know all
what
the
a great scene that was.
Creepy, right?
Jeez,
She turns around.
Yeah.
And he alternated between being both the child and adult version of Norman, as well as Norma. He would have conversations between the two of them, the mom yelling at him and him trying to, avoid confrontation. And then he would actually eventually get overtaken by her and dress and talk completely like her, which was also creepy. When he put on that night dress or whatever. Oh my God. So anyways, in the movie, Janet Leigh plays one of her most iconic roles, the character of Marion Crane, a young woman on the run after stealing money for her employer who makes the fateful decision to check into the Bates Motel. Right? Well, Norman, he's the only proprietor there now. He becomes smitten with Miss Crane there, asks her to have dinner with him, but Mother, in quotes, flies into a rage at this, says, no, Norman, you let her in this house and I will disown you, or whatever she says. Well, anyways, Norman defies Mom, has dinner with her, spies on the beautiful Marion taking a shower through a peephole he had drilled through the wall, conveniently enough. But Mother takes control of the situation, and in one of the most famous horror movie scenes, stabs Marion in the shower. He's got the, mother dress, night dress on.
Scene.
Yeah, it really is. They used ketchup for the blood in that scene.
Did they?
Yeah, I remember reading that somewhere. Well, anyways, Norman wakes up after.
And the sound effects were made by stabbing fruit.
Yes,
like a cantaloupe
correct,
or watermelon.
Correct. And now here's the difference between the book and the movie. In the book, Mother actually beheads her. Does not stab her in the shower. Yeah, beheads her. Anyways, Norman wakes up to discover what Mother has done and ends up sinking the car containing Marion's body and the stolen cash
and the money
in a nearby swamp. Then gets his life together and goes on to live his days out peacefully.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not what happens. Tried to throw a red herring in there to the listeners. Norman
wow, the book really is very different than the movie.
Mother then murders a private detective who comes snooping around a few days later, trying to find the young Miss Crane. But then he's finally arrested after Marion's sister and boyfriend come to the motel looking for her. They find Norman's dead mother, and they overpower a weaker Norman who is declared insane and sent to an institution where Mother takes complete and permanent control of his body, setting up the sequels you just discussed for decades to come.
Now,
well, actually, not decades to come, because that movie was in 1960. I believe that the sequel wasn't until like 1983 or something.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. It was Hitchcock died. Nobody ever thought thered be another sequel. And then they came out with a whole slew of them.
It was crazy. Now, there were also a couple other well-known now actors that played the role of Norman Bates.
Real quick, that whole movie, for people who haven't seen it, you have to realize that when you watch the first movie, you don't know that Norman and his mother are two different people.
Correct.
So you're through this entire thing, and there's this super creepy plot. It's not till the very end that that's revealed. It's like the Sixth Sense.
Right. It's got that
which
wow
I've never
factor.
seen, by the way.
I know. We talked about that in one of the other
twist over and over.
One of the other episodes. So I did give spoiler alerts, but like I said, I mean, how long do I got to wait? Do I got to wait 80 years on a movie to
you
give spoilers?
You should have given him another 20 years, Tara. So not everybody has gotten a chance to see
So
this
in 1998, Vince Vaughn actually played Norman Bates. You remember this role?
Now, this remake was very interesting because it was a shot-by-shot remake.
You know your psycho
I watched
trivia.
both of these, shot-by-shot remake. But the way that the actors played it, even with the same lines, I guess the moral of the story was a little bit different.
Right.
So in the first movie, Marion Crane was killed, and as punishment for taking the money. But in the remake, it seemed more that the way that they played the characters, it seemed like she was killed for stopping and having a conscience about taking the money. Whereas if she just went to her lover, just went for it, she would have lived.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I don't remember. I'm sure I saw it at some point, but I don't really remember watching it.
It was panned.
Yeah,
and I can understand that. I can understand that because it was really just a shot-by-shot remake with just a few differences.
And how rare is that for a remake to literally be shot-by-shot, line-by-line, like just a redo?
Very rare.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was the director on that one was Gus Van Sant, who had a great career directing. However, this movie, as you just talked about, it was panned universally by critics everywhere. Yeah. It won 2 Golden Raspberry Awards that year, one for Worst Remake and one for Worst Director. And Anne Heche, who was also in it, was up for Worst Actress, I guess I should say. She did not, quote, win, but that movie, it did win 2 raspberries.
Back then, I really thought it was pointless as a remake, but, when I watched it and actually saw how it was, I'm glad that it was made because it was interesting to take the same thing and just have different actors playing it and see how it kind of changed the overall track of the movie. And
again, this is, I know this sounds crazy and some of you might not buy into this, but I know for a fact it's true. today's generation, even 10, 20 years ago, there are some amazing films that they will never see because they refuse to watch a movie that's in black and white.
That's right. Exactly. No,
So,
you're exactly
so you
right.
have to cater to them. They said, this is too good a story. We want people to see it. So they updated it for today's, well, back then, 20 years ago, the teens or 20-somethings of that era. But listen, I got rid of that a long time ago because there's so many movies I would have missed out on if I didn't go back to the classics.
But
You know,
now you're the person who says that you refuse to watch Star Trek.
I do. Oh, Star Wars.
Star Trek.
Well, Star Trek, I probably won't watch either, but I will watch Star Wars for the sake of the news freaks. I will.
What good does that do Star Trek?
Star Trek can sit on it for a little while. I've got too much on my plate, including what I'm going to talk about next. You were talking about prequels. Well, A&E had a very, very popular show from 2013 to 2017, Bates Motel, which told the story, which was a prequel.
See.
And I've got that on my list. I want to see it because it got great reviews.
And I also did not see the original Bates Motel.
Yeah, which was
a TV
correct.
show. Also,
Yeah.
I think it might have only been the pilot. I can't remember, but I remember the ads for it. I was like, oh, I want to watch that. And I never got a chance. It was taken off the air before I even got to see it.
The young actor Freddie Highmore plays Norman Bates, and he got great reviews for his portrayal. And also Vera Farmiga. I really like her as an actress. She played Norman's mom in the prequel. But yeah, 4 seasons, and everybody told me this show was tense and taut throughout, and it was really well done. So I've got it on my list. I think it's streaming on one of either Netflix
I'm
or
interested
Hulu.
to watch
I think,
that.
yeah, I definitely
maybe
think it's streaming.
for Halloween, we'll go through the psychos.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
Put that on the list.
Yeah. So I mean,
Maybe Jess will lend us the videos.
Yeah, Jess, could you just go on eBay or Amazon and order up every Psycho movie ever made for us and get that by? You've got till October.
And the TV shows too. I'd like to see those.
Yeah, please, if you
Get
could,
on that, Jeff.
if you could. But anyways, so it shows that the mother-son relationship all the way back to the days of Oedipus, right? I mean, it's a very complex kind of situation.
That's right.
It's not always easy. I'm very not even envious, not even jealous. I'm very happy, and I think it's very heartwarming when you see people who have that great relationship with their moms that is just like really close, and you can tell that there was a lot of love and nurturing growing up because it's not always the case.
It's sickening.
That's not always the case.
You guys are so lucky. You don't even know how lucky you
really,
are.
it is. And again, I'm not saying that's not me because I mean my mom did a great job as well, and I've got nothing but love for her for sure, and appreciation for all she did for us. But again, these people, there's a lot of people out there that do not have it so good. They did not get the lottery when it came to that aspect of life.
God, I almost said no one will ever love you like your mother. Isn't that the line from
a boy's best friend is his mother.
Okay, that's a little different. That's a little different. Okay.
No one will ever love you like your mother. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So anyways, those of you out there, News Freaks listeners, if you have a mom that's still with you and still with us, definitely give her a call on Sunday. Let her know how much she's appreciated. Let her know how much you love her and care about her. Try to send her a Whitman sampler if you can afford it. I mean, I don't know if it's in my budget, but some of our listeners might have that kind of dough. Hopefully, right?
Hopefully. That's a Whitman sampler, man.
I think inflation's really caused those babies to go up. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for our special edition here.
Oh, we're done.
We're done, man. Look at it. Look at the timer.
Yeah, it's been an hour. This thing goes by so fast, but I feel like we should do something else for this. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I a lot of this felt like a regular show. There's no story. There's no game time.
No.
Usually on the special edition, we talk a little bit. Well, we did shoot the bull.
We did.
We learned a lot about each other.
You just forgot. It went by in such a
show.
blur. You just forgot that we shared a piece of our hearts with the listeners today.
That's right.
We did. We really we wanted to get on an intimate level with our fan base and kind of show them that we're just regular Joes and just like they are.
And if there's any good-looking ladies out there who want to
you're gonna
act
try
as
this
if they're
again?
the mother.
Oh man, Ed. Last time you were asking for affairs. Now you're asking for mommy. What's gonna happen next episode?
We got to live up to the freaks, the news freaks, Tara. We can't make them think we're just normal.
This is true.
Here.
Like I say, on the special editions, Ed and I break out our best kimonos, and we really just lounge around back here. And right. I mean, I put out a platter of fruit and cheese, a little glass of wine for me, and Ed just drinks whatever he's drinking.
Oh yeah,
there.
Remind me later. I have to order some Transformers pajamas. Oh, I'm sorry, lounge pants.
All right, Ed, I will put that on my list. Anyways, News Freaks, let us know what you thought about today's special edition or any of our episodes. We're creeping up on 30 complete episodes. This was our third special edition.
Feeling old.
Yeah,
man.
this is great. Anyways, guys, 904-300-2475. Shoot us a text. Definitely catch us on our website, thenewsfreaks.com, and at Newsfreaks Pod on Twitter and the News Freaks on Facebook. We love having our listeners. You're the reason we do this. You keep us going. You keep us wanting to come back to the microphone every single week or every other week or every third week, whenever we get around to it.
I'm doing it for the money.
Edman is holding out hope that one day we are going to be in the top 10 of all Patreon subscribed podcasts. Anyways, guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe out there, and we will catch you next week for our sign off. Who are you, man?
I'm Edman.
And I'm Terry. See ya.
Okay.